Working Cows Podcast, episode 383. This episode is brought to you by C90 Ocean Minerals.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. This is Clay Conry, host of the Working Cows Podcast, recorded exclusively in the Understanding Ag Studios. And this episode is brought to you by C90 Ocean Minerals. C90 Ocean Minerals, the leading mineral and trace element sea salt for your herd, is now available nationwide at Tractor Supply Company. We're excited to bring the incredible benefits of our mineral-rich sea salt to more farmers and ranchers across the country. To find your closest Tractor Supply location, visit us at c-90.com/tractor today. Trouble with flies? Select stores also carry C90 mineral salt with garlic for fly control. Learn more today at c-90.com/tractor. Very excited to be joined today by Alex Russell. Alex is a rancher, a farmer, at Chucktown Acres in Charleston, South Carolina, and he was a guest, a panelist on the recent Regenerative Legacy Summit hosted by Jared Sorensen, and very, very good presentation that he shared on direct-to-consumer marketing there. And I really wanted to give him an opportunity to flesh that out and just pick his brain a little bit and learn from him about the way that he thinks about those things, because he's obviously thought a lot about it. So, Alex, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows Podcast. Welcome.
My pleasure to be here, Clay. Thank you.
It was fun to see you share at the Regenerative Legacy Summit. Jared Sorensen, he did a great job of organizing that and just stacking in a bunch of different presenters. And it was striking because everybody comes in with these slick presentations and they're in their office and they're firing away. And then here comes Alex draped over the tailgate and just 30 minutes of nonstop gold nuggets about direct marketing. Because the day hadn't gone exactly to plan at Chucktown Acres. Am I right?
Yeah, that was exactly it. I didn't have my slideshow. My hotspot wasn't working because I got a new phone and Verizon was giving me problems. It was like raining. We had the farmer's market. The cows were out, or maybe the pigs were out. I can't remember. I try to block that day out of my memory, but it was just, like it seems like once a month you have one of those days, and a lot of the times it seems to be the day that you have to do something like really important at a very specific time, which doesn't always, it's not a daily thing on the farm,
Yep.
But you might do something in a public thing every once a month or something like that, and that's the day the pigs get out. You're like, so hopefully, you've at least rehearsed your points, and hopefully you've lived the material. And so that's really, I had 3 points that I remembered from the talk, and then most of it was just examples of like, here's what we've done over the last 5 years. And it was fun, and I appreciated that everybody went with it, so that was cool.
I briefly considered redesigning my water system this summer because all 3 days that I was gone to the Soil Health Academy, Gabe Brown, Alan Williams, Fernando Falomir, all 3 days I was gone to the Soil Health Academy, the water system broke and my wife had to fight to fix it at 100+ degrees, right? Did it break any of the other 100+ days that we had cattle there throughout the summer? No, nope. Only one other day, and that was the day before the guy came to pick them up to take them home after the summer.
Yeah.
And of course, so then we go out there to gather them up and trail them back to the barn so we can load them on the trailers, and they're standing in a lake of mud that they've created by breaking the water system. But only those 4 days did it break.
Yeah.
The 3 days I was gone and the day before they come to get picked up. So you're not alone.
Yeah. We just got back from a little vacation to the mountains. If your listeners don't know, we live in coastal South Carolina, so we we miss mountain time a lot. The air, the just clean air, basically, with no humidity. But we just got back from a 5-day vacation where nothing went wrong on the farm. And this was the first time in 5 years that I've been running my farm that I've left and something like catastrophic didn't happen. I was man, this is great.
I think the Puritans would call that a sweet providence. So
yeah, I was soaking in it, man. I loved it. I was grateful.
Very cool. So yes, you were talking on the Regenerative Legacy Summit, and I just thought there was so much value there that I wanted to give you an opportunity to share that again, maybe with a different audience. And one of the things that you spent quite a bit of time talking about was identifying your target market. And I am always blown away by how many of these principles are essentially universal. You just apply them in different business sectors. And so when I started trying to learn how to podcast, I'd gotten pretty good at listening to podcasts, but then I decided, I'm going to start one. How do I do that? And the first thing, like the first 4 sessions in the course I took, are all about identifying your avatar, which is basically your target market. And so talk to me a little bit about that, the importance of it, and how you kind of think about it for your business.
Right. Well, I had to learn this by trial and error because all of my training happened in Virginia, where I was not selling any of the product that I was raising. I was working underneath another farm, and I was growing animals for them, and then they would take them away, and I had nothing to do with the sale of the product. And so when I decided to start my own operation, all of a sudden I was like, all right, I bought some cows, I bought some broiler chickens, I got some layers and pigs, and got everything processed, and then opened up my online store and was ready for the floodgates to open up and for everyone to be so excited about what we were doing. And then just like we hit a brick wall. Like there was like 2 or 3 sales and then nothing. And for months I was just ready to just almost give up because I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong with the sales thing. I felt like just because I had an online store, that it was during COVID too. So this is June of 2020. So no one's going anywhere. Everyone's a hermit, we're all hermit crabs all of a sudden, and no one's going anywhere. So I was like, all right, great. We've got this online software. People can buy it online. We're going to deliver it to their house. We're going to drop it off at their door. This is going to be so great. As soon as I put these 3 beefs on here, they're going to be gone, and they weren't. And so it's just like, man, what the heck? Everyone says they want grass-fed, grass-finished beef. They say they want chicken. The stores are empty. And I'm over here with a walk-in freezer full of meat. What's going on? And so I had to learn a lot about figuring out who to target in my marketing and where to be. And then a lot about social media and email marketing as well. And so, the biggest mistake I made starting off was thinking that my number one customer was going to be kind of hipster conspiracy theorists and people who want to buy like whole sides of beef and stuff at a time
to put in their bunker
and
right next to the ammunition.
Yeah. All freeze dried for the apocalypse. And I had some of them. They found me. In those were sweet conversations, and I was like, oh yeah, my people are finally here. And then they ran out. There's only so many of them out there, that especially with the prices that I have to put up to make any profit on my products. These are not prices that your grungy, foodie people that living in a downtown apartment with one room with 4 other people, these people cannot afford $13 a pound for ground beef. It's the unfortunate reality. So
because contrary to popular belief that thrift store aesthetic is expensive. And so
Yeah.
it takes a lot to look like you just rolled out of bed. You know, I mean, it's pretty expensive.
I still dress like that most of the time. I ruin all my clothes, so I have to buy them used so I don't feel bad about it. Everything ends up with motor oil and hydraulic oil and grease all over it and manure.
Right.
So my wife is really good at throwing away my clothes that have reached what she decides is the limit, which
Yeah.
I think I could get at least 3 or 4 more days out of it.
Right. Yep. Same.
Anyway,
I said just throw it away when I don't know, and I'll never notice it's gone. But you know, it's fine. Just throw it away when I'm not looking.
Yeah. She's learned that she has to take it out to the dumpster outside because if I see it in the kitchen trash can, I'm going to pull it out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
our
I
wives
digress.
should commiserate sometime. But,
Yeah. The farm wives have a lot to talk about. So anyhow, I had kind of reached this moment where I was like, dude, these people are not going to sustain me financially. There's not enough of them, and they don't have the budget to be able to afford what I have. Okay, so who am I going to sell this stuff to? And I started looking at my sales, and then we had we probably had about 6 months of farmers market under our belt. And we were at a really good farmers market. This was kind of a lucky situation because this one farmers market had 2 meat vendors at it before, and one of them had stepped down in 2019. So here we are, 2020. They delay the opening of the farmers market because of COVID, but we get in there in like July or something like that, and I start selling pasture-raised chicken and grass-fed beef and eggs to these people. And yes, I had the grungy hipsters coming in, but then I noticed that a lot of my customers were suburban moms. They usually brought their kids to the farmers market. They usually had one in a stroller or walking beside them. Young kids, 3 and 4-year-olds. And so I just kind of took the approach of like, okay, I just need to kind of like pay attention to what's happening. I'm here. I've got the product. I'm trying to do some social media stuff. I'm trying to be present at farmers markets and have good conversations with people, tell them about why regenerative is important, why what we do is important. And I really tried to hold on to my customers for a little bit longer than what they were comfortable for in a conversation in person, just because I needed to gain some input out of them.
You were the market research department.
I was. And I found out if you're at a farmer's market and you have people at your stall, it's a lot less intimidating for person number 2 and number 3 to come up and check you out. We could do a whole course on farmer's market psychology. And it's just there's so much there that I've just learned from observations there. I had one guy beside me. Our market's on Tuesdays, so this was 2 days ago. He had he's next to me, but he had his table about 5 feet back from the line, where my stuff is all out front, like kind of screaming, like, "Hey, you want this?" His stuff was way back because the angle of the sun. And I was like, "Look, Larry, I got to tell you something, man. You got to get that table up there. I know it's in the sun, but you're creating a vortex of doom right here. And this 5 feet will act like an iron dome around your station." And he didn't move his table, and he barely had any customers. And I was like, "All right, next week you should get that table out there just a little bit further." Anyway, I found out that for me, my number one customer was suburban moms. Usually they're either working moms or stay-at-home moms, but they bring their kids with them everywhere. And you can kind of tell that they are doing this. By this, I mean shopping with me, spending the extra money on my products. They're doing this because something is going on in their brain that says, I have some offspring. I need to give them the highest quality, safest food possible. Like, I don't care what it costs. I don't want microplastics in there. I don't want a bunch of antibiotics and artificial hormones in the meat. Like, I want the cleanest possible food, the most nutrition for my child. And so I started it didn't take a ton of adjusting because I was basically, my marketing was basically just telling people what we do. It wasn't very complex, and I didn't have like paid advertising that was targeting certain groups. So I've avoided that as much as possible. So I just had to change a little bit of the phrasing that I did in my market to connect with what does a suburban mom care about. She probably doesn't care that you do daily pasture rotations in different paddocks. She probably doesn't care about what kind of hay you're feeding, whether, for us, it's either coastal or Bahia or crab. She probably doesn't care if you're supplementing them with alfalfa or not. Like, these are stuff she doesn't care about. She cares about, are you regenerative? Are you sustainable? Are you local? And then the big one is we just say chemical free. Like, we don't spray anything on these pastures, and we don't do any crazy chemicals with our cows. We actually don't vaccinate or medicate. I know some people can't do that depending on where you are. So, especially with black leg being a big thing, but we've been able to get away with 0 vaccinations. And that is really, really stinking important to these people. As far as the beef goes, grass-fed, grass-finished was what they really, really cared about. So I kind of learned that these people are learning from documentaries, books, podcasts, and they take it on personally for themselves in the way they shop. And I just need to match their expectations with what they want. And thankfully, I have what they want already. I didn't really have to change a lot. I wasn't grain feeding already. I wasn't doing any feedlots or anything like that, God forbid. And so, none of my animals are on concrete. Like, I didn't have to really change a lot because I was reading the same books that those suburban moms were reading. So our values were aligning there, which was great. I just needed to emphasize words differently.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, C90 Ocean Minerals. C90 Ocean Minerals, the leading mineral and trace element sea salt for your herd, is now available nationwide at Tractor Supply Company. We're excited to bring the incredible benefits of our mineral-rich sea salt to more farmers and ranchers across the country. To find your closest Tractor Supply location, visit us at c-90.com/tractor today. Trouble with flies? Select stores also carry C90 mineral salt with garlic for fly control. Learn more today at c-90.com/tractor. It even went so far as to give her a name, right? I mean,
yeah,
and
Suburban
these different,
Sally.
Yep, and these different sectors or the different populations you're marketing to, each kind of have their own name and approach to marketing to them, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So Sally's my number one. Right. I basically changed. Next, I was going to talk about cut sheets because I was also needing to adjust the way that our products were processed. I'm like a big whole chicken guy where I really want these people to buy whole chickens and learn how to cut it up themselves. And I that's something that my hipster foodie friends would do because it's a great economic savings. But my suburban moms didn't care. They wanted chicken breast and thighs. That was it. They don't care about your wings. They don't care about your drumsticks. They don't care about your frames. They just want breasts and thighs. And so I just started adjusting my expectations of my customers and raising the prices to be able to cover the extra costs, because my processors cost, it's another $250 per bird to break it down, which when you're bringing in 300 birds at a time, it adds up pretty quickly. So then my beef cut sheets changed a lot too. I wanted to try to get a bunch of unique cuts, chuck eyes, terrace major, flat irons, and like a bunch of different cuts that I find really interesting. Eye of round, because we like Vietnamese food, so there's a lot of eye of round and that kind of stuff. And I found out these people do not care about that. They don't. They want hamburger, and they want filet and ribeyes and strips.
I think that is a really good point, that we oftentimes market to ourselves rather than marketing to our customer.
Yeah. Because I'm the scrappy foodie, where I would love to buy like a whole loin off of a pig and break it down myself. But my customers are very, very different from that. So I had to really adjust my expectation of what do they want. I had to start putting myself in their shoes and figuring out how they want this stuff delivered to them.
Up to and including thinking about their schedule and the amount of time they have to prepare this meal. And, oh, wait, I forgot to thaw out the ground beef or whatever it is, and now I've got these people are looking at me and they want to eat before we go to soccer practice. And what am I going to do?
Yes. Yep. So we started doing probably 40% hamburger, 50% hamburger coming back off these guys. People were saying that they wanted organ meats in their diet, but they hate the taste of organ meats. So we created a blend that has 25% liver and heart in the hamburger. And all of a sudden that started selling really good, because these, a mom could thaw this out and she knows she's getting like an ounce of liver and an ounce of heart in this pound of ground beef, maybe even more, maybe 2 ounces. And she's making meatballs for her 2-year-old. And now her 2-year-old is getting half an ounce of liver and half an ounce of heart for dinner, and they had no idea. And that was way more important to them than I thought it was going to be. And so I get people coming back for stuff like that all the time. So I had to, number one thing was I just had to pay attention. So we started paying attention to what these people wanted. And we realized that they also shop on a weekly basis. These people are not super long-term thinkers. They're kind of like, we've got 2 little kids, so we know what it's like. Like, it's kind of a survival mode a lot of the time when you've got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. Everything's kind of crazy. Like you said, you forgot to thaw the stuff out. So hopefully you have some meat in the freezer that's easy to thaw out, and you don't have to make a chuck roast at 4 p.m. And so we started creating a subscription for our customers, and we based it solely on what these suburban moms were going after. And we realized they love what we have, but they're so busy that they have a really hard time remembering to order from us ahead of time. So we needed to do the remembering for them. And the only way that we could come up with that is either sell them a quarter beef, so it's there in their freezer, or even more unique to that suburban mom, let's create a subscription that comes to their house every week. They sign up for it one time, and then they've got a weekly delivery coming to their house every Wednesday for us. And they can rely on that. And we loved being able to do that because we make it a farmer's choice. So I get to choose what they want. So then my freezer inventory is working. I'm working with my freezer inventory. Instead of selling a subscription that is ground beef, chicken breast, and bacon every week, I'm working with, you might get that this week, but next week it might be chuck roast, pork chop, and a sausage. It might be wings and strip and like a pork tenderloin or something like that. So I can work with what I've got. And it turned out that these people, bless their heart, they don't really care what you bring them as long as you don't bring them something really weird. If you start bringing them eye of round, they're going to cancel on you. If you start trying to bring them like a sirloin, even like a sirloin tip roast, I think is a really amazing kind of pot roast kind of thing. They had never heard of it. And so they were out. Like I literally had someone cancel for that. I had someone cancel because I brought them cube steak, which I'm like, come on. I grew up, cube steak was like every Sunday. So I ended up creating this subscription that really just focuses on easy to cook, but high quality stuff. And that's been our miracle potion for our business, for our revenue, because I don't have to rely on them to remember to shop with me. They just have to do it one time and it's going to automatically ring them in every time. And I get to bring them stuff. I get to work with my freezer inventory. As long as I don't give them anything crazy, they're super happy with what we have. And that's been a huge boost for us.
Yeah. So then does the farmer's market become a lead generation tool for the subscription?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So when you go to the farmer's market, you get a flyer, you get a bag with the sticker or a stamp on it with our logo. We're just trying to do things to get the brand awareness built up. And so everything leads people to the website where they sign up for the subscription.
Yeah.
And I mean, our farmers market sales are great. Like people
worth doing in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah. I would still do it even if we didn't have an online store. But the cool thing is it seems like half of my customers don't care what they get. They just want our food. The other half do care and are very specific about what they want. And so we either create a custom subscription for them, or they come to the farmer's market and they can literally look in the cooler and pick out which New York strip they want and which they have their meal plans ready to go for the week. And so because we have that market, and we also opened up a farm store here on the farm, we can cover both of those bases there. We've got this mainstay of folks that keep us going week after week after week, and they never have to think about it. It's this base income that we know is going to come in. And then we've got our in-person customers that want to pick out everything, and they're happy too because we have more options than just a subscription. And that's kind of been a really great golden ticket for us.
Right. Would you say that the 80-20 rule then applies to that like those repeat customers, subscription boxes, people that are coming to the farmer's market with their shopping list, that's 80% of your business, and then 20% is the others?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I've learned with that 20%, I've had to make some rules to not let them take up 80% of my time.
Exactly.
Like you usually hear with that phrase.
Yep.
And so if I don't have what they want, I just tell them, too bad. I know a great guy 2 hours that way that does. And if you're looking for bone-in, skin-on chicken breast, maybe he'll do it for you. But I've got my people. I've come to learn what they want, and they want boneless, skinless chicken breast. So I'm not going to jump through a ton of hoops with my processor to ask them to make 5 birds with a bone-in, skin-on chicken breast. It's not worth my time.
Yep.
Yeah, and and I'm a real people pleaser, so that's been a really hard challenge for me to be able to just tell people like, sorry, I'm just not going to do it. We sell all of our briskets in half. We separate the flats and the points because a lot of my customers have 2 kids and they're not big barbecuers. They just want to feed their family. So if they can get a 4-pound flat off of a brisket, they might even throw it in the crock pot, and it's no big deal. I got, probably 2 times a year, I'll have a real big barbecuer guy come in and say, I want a Packers brisket, and I'm just like, Sorry, I bet Costco has them,
Here's the pieces. You can assemble it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get some meat glue, you could put these two together. But sometimes I just had to learn to say no, because if you let the 20% take up 80% of your time,
you're going to miss out on 80% of your revenue.
Yeah. And you start slacking on the people that really keep you going and really sustain you financially.
It's really tempting for me to go back and open up another coffee shop. My wife and I owned a coffee shop for 10 years, and I didn't know anything about business. All we knew about that coffee shop is that our kids didn't have to go to daycare if my wife worked there from 6:30 to 9 in the morning. That's all we knew about that coffee shop. And I've learned so much over the last 7 years of doing this podcast about business and all those things that I would love to go back and just pay attention to some of these things and see how much better we could do at that.
Try again. Yeah. Yeah, I know. But it's you got to learn your way. And I mean, your customers, you're in South Dakota, right?
Yes, sir.
Your customers may want totally different stuff than mine do.
Yep.
And so I say all this with a grain of salt that, like, yeah, my customers really, really love chicken breast and ground beef, but yours might be into something else.
Yep.
And so you needing that flexibility in your marketing strategy seems to be super important.
Yep. Identifying your target market, not Alex's, not Joel's, not anybody else, your target market, and serving them. I think that's, capitalism is ultimately loving your neighbor, really is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And so you're serving them. Not serving yourself, not having a really cool ribeye to put on Instagram necessarily, but serving them with what they want, what they need, when they need it, at the price that they're willing to pay. And I think that's an interesting discussion we should get to in a second. But what I wanted to ask you when you were talking about that is, you're managing your freezer inventory with these subscriptions. What are you doing with the rest of the stuff that doesn't fit into those buckets of, easy to cook and stuff they're familiar with?
I mean, I've almost gotten rid of those cuts. I just grind them.
Oh, sure.
Because of the amount of sausage, like we do Berkshire hogs raised in the woods, and it's a shame because the Berkshire hog has one of the most beautiful hams that you could make into prosciutto, send to Italy somewhere, and they're just amazing. And I've been grinding hams for 4 years now because I couldn't sell one. Like, my customers didn't care that they could make their own prosciutto at home in a cave if they wanted to, or even do a ham for Christmas. They just didn't care about the ham. And so I just grind them. I cry a little bit every time I fill out the cut sheet because I know what I'm grinding there, but it's better than having something that sits in the freezer forever.
Yeah. That's the equivalent of the coffee shop candy bar in a cup. Like, that makes me cringe. And honestly, we had the Milky Way, and we had the Mounds Bar coffee cup. Like, the coffee, you could order it. I want a Milky Way today, or I want a Mounds Bar. That makes me want to vomit. Like, seriously, just give me 4 shots of espresso in a 20-ounce cup with a little hot water, so that it lasts longer, and I'm good. Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's not what they want. They want the candy bar in a cup. And so we gave it to them.
That's amazing.
You're better than me because you aren't marketing a bunch of sugar, and I know that. But
we have to do what we need to do to survive as small business owners, as solo entrepreneurs. I mean, and if that's what your people want, then I do try to educate my customers, but I don't try to flip people from the dark side I don't try to flip them from Walmart to me. You know what I mean? I find the people at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, and I slip them over to with my education that I do on my social media. I try to slip them in to buying from us, but I'm not trying to convince someone that's buying those tubes of ground beef that you could use as like a bazooka on your shoulder. I'm not trying to convince them to buy from us because it's just, the ratio is pretty low on conversion for that.
Right.
And so that's what
you got your
I try
bumper
to find
sticker.
people who are already there, and they just probably need to know that we exist. That's been the main thing, is not convincing them to shop with us when they already know about us, but it's just introducing myself to them and believing in our product, that this is what people want, and then just making it available.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to flip people from Folgers to the Pony Espresso. No. I was trying to flip people from Starbucks, right? And I just had the bumper sticker said, "Friends don't let friends drink corporate coffee," and like friends don't let friends eat corporate meat, I mean,
yes. Right. So
if you
my
scroll
little
to the bottom of Whole Foods on the website, it says an Amazon company.
Yeah. Right. We're in a little shrimping village here on the coast of South Carolina, and so everyone has a bumper sticker that says, "Friends don't let friends eat imported shrimp."
Nice.
And that's what we do around here. So cool. I'm like the weird guy with cows in a little shrimping village.
Surf and turf, baby. Surf and turf.
Yeah. Yep.
So one of the things that I found really fascinating on the Regenerative Legacy Summit was how you thought about restaurants and marketing to them. Could you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a very specific strategy that I love sharing with anybody. It's no secret of mine. But I'll give you a little backstory. When I was in Virginia, learning how to do all this, learning the regenerative agriculture way, I started my own little duck business. So I raised about 1,000 ducks over the course of 8 months. Pekin, whatever they were, Grand Pekin, whatever, fat white ducks for restaurants. And we would butcher them ourselves. We'd raise them all the way and from, like 1 day old, and we'd process them. And then I had to find restaurants because, this was not a Suburban Sally product. Like, they are not going to be roasting a whole duck. If I can't even get them to roast a whole chicken, there's no way I'm going to be getting them to do a Pekin duck at home. And so I had to find restaurants. And, I had to find chefs that could work with this. Duck's not the most exotic product. There's still ostrich and stuff out there, but it was pretty exotic for my customer base. And so I had to find a way to get in front of chefs, and definitely didn't have time to leave the farm and drive around to a bunch of restaurants and get rejected. So I did cold calls, and I found out that just about for every 16 restaurants, I would get to talk to one chef. So when you call a restaurant, just cold calling them saying, "Hey, can I talk to your chef?" They have a system. It seems like every restaurant in the world has a system that has layers of protection in front of their chef. In between you to the chef, you got to get through the host, you got to get through the GM, you got to get through the kitchen manager, and then you can get to the chef. So 1 to 16 was the ratio I was working with. Most of the time, if I could talk to the chef and explain to them, I'm doing pasture raised duck, we're doing really clean butchery, no crazy chemicals. We can bring them to you fresh, yada yada yada. I find that about 1 out of every 5 would want one, or would at least buy 10 a week or so, and they would want them on a rotation. They'd want to get them on the menu. They'd probably put them on specials first and see how it goes. Make sure your food doesn't suck. And then if they like it, they're going to put it on the menu, and it's going to be on the rotation. So that's a lot of phone calls to make. And so I really learned when to not call restaurants. And I found out there's a very tiny window of when you should call them. So I know a lot of us in the direct to consumer space are doing wholesale. So this is my rule for calling chefs. You call the restaurant Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you only call them between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. Okay. The chef's not going to be there in the morning, and he's not going to want to talk to you while he's doing dinner prep. So the cutoff is a hard cutoff at 4 o'clock. You might be able to switch the beginning to like 1 o'clock, but I had the most success between 2 and 4. He's definitely not going to want to talk on a Friday or Saturday because that's their big day. He's going to be, chopping onions all day and testing sauces and stuff like that. He doesn't want to talk about something that he might do 3 weeks from now. He's focused. So on Tuesday through Thursday, he's planning. He's in there or she's in there. They're thinking about all the different things they want to try, the different dishes they want to go with. So if you find them in that space when they're in their planning zone, then you might actually be able to make a really good connection. So that was just my little secret there. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 to 4 p.m. Give them a call. Introduce yourself. Don't take up a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to talk for 20 seconds and figure out your elevator pitch for a chef. Don't waste their time because that's the best way to off a chef is to just waste their time.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Figure out a way to watch The Bear without all the language if you can, which you can't.
Yeah.
But anyways, watch The Bear
Yeah.
and understand that most chefs are just like some kind of a little dictator, and they're trying to run this thing and keep all the wheels on and everything.
Yes, because they have to be.
Right. Yeah.
It's a crazy saloon in the back.
Yep.
And that's just it's unfortunate, but that's the system that we have at place. And so they have to be kind of crazy dictators, Gordon Ramsay types.
Yep.
And so if you spend 2 minutes talking about the history of your operation, they're going to hang up on you. Like, I know you care, but you're not putting yourself in the shoes of your customer. Your customer doesn't care about the history of the land, about what your granddaddy did. I know that stuff's important to you, but it's not important to this chef in this 30-second window that you have to sell your idea to them.
Yeah. Leadership and leading is about knowing your why. Marketing is probably about knowing their why.
Oh, wow. That's great.
You think?
Make a t-shirt.
Yeah. So
yeah, well, that's that. I've never thought about it that way because I've talked a lot. I teach a marketing class for farmers. It's really fun. It's through the Barn to Door program. But I talk about knowing your why in your education of your customers, because your customers want to connect to your story. And your story is important to them. It's just important to them in teeny little chunks at a time. Yep. They don't want to watch a 10-minute Instagram video about your farm life. You'll lose them after 60 seconds.
Right. It's important to them.
But I haven't thought about specifically, I've talked about the words that are important to your customers,
right,
but I haven't necessarily thought about it as to their why, their story, because that's their context that they're coming from.
Right. It's important to them
great point.
In the way and for the reasons it's important to them, not in the way and for the reasons it's important to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is scheduled to be workingcows.net/383, the show notes page for today, workingcows.net/383. So I'm assuming there's a link we could send people to for the Barn to Door program that they could then get access to your portion of that.
Yeah, I think it's exclusive to people who use the software.
Okay.
So I've thought a lot about starting my own, but I haven't yet. But the class is really fun. It's 3 weeks. It's an hour each week, and I get a new group every month.
Nice.
But it's a blast.
The Barn to Door program the Barn to Door software is a big part of how you guys built your subscription business, right? Which is now a big portion of your business.
Yeah, it's all built on Barn to Door.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. It's basically Shopify for farmers specifically. And so, everything, there's not a bunch of stuff that you don't need on there, which I find with, whatever Wix and Shopify and those guys.
Yeah.
But they've just built everything you need, especially if you're doing home delivery or shipping. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without that software.
Yep. So a couple of things I'd like to talk about as we point towards wrapping up is, first of all, pricing products. I mean, you talked about certain numbers for ground beef and other numbers for other products. And I think sometimes we get nervous, and I came to the conclusion, again, not to belabor the point of running a coffee shop, but I came to the conclusion in running a coffee shop that if you're not upsetting at least some portion of your customer base with your prices, you're probably not making money.
Yes. Amen. Yep. I could not agree with you more.
And the people that you're upsetting with your prices are in the 20% you shouldn't spend 80% of your time marketing to. The people who are happy to pay your prices are probably in the 80% who you should spend 80% of your marketing to.
100%. I just had this conversation with a gal at the farmer's market. She has 6 kids and she only wanted to buy chicken breast. And my chicken breast is $20 a pound. And she's like, how can your chicken breast be this expensive? And I said, well, it's kind of a long story, but when you break down the pricing and all the things I have to pay for to get this chicken breast in a package, and for me to make a 35% margin on this, it's $23 a pound. That's what it comes out to. And I said, here's the whole chickens right next to it for $6.50 a pound. Okay. You can get way more meat off of this chicken for the same price as basically the 2 breasts are the same price as the whole chicken. It's just a little bit under. The whole chicken is probably $26. The chicken breast is going to be $20, $21. And so I was like, if the price is the problem, then I have the economical route right here. But I sell out of chicken breast every year at $23 a pound. So I'm not gonna drop it down and do it for free. I can't do this for free. This works way too hard and consuming to do it for free. And so I'm unapologetic about my prices, but I understand that they're way more expensive than everyone else. I've just been able to focus in on customers who understand that and are willing to pay what we charge and appreciate what we do. I will say, with the caveat, we're not in a super high pressure zone. Coastal South Carolina is not very good farmland. So this is not Ohio, Missouri, Virginia. This isn't like prime farming land. So it hasn't attracted a lot of farmers. It's one of the main reasons I started my farm here. I know I can do Joel Salatin's methods anywhere. And so I knew I had the skills to go farm in one of the most challenging places to do it, with unforgiving climate. But I've been able to not have to deal with a ton of other competitors because of what we do. So when I talk to farmers that are dealing with a lot of pressure from other farms nearby that are direct to consumer, I encourage them to focus in on a single or maybe 2 enterprise system that you can get bulk discounts on your feed. You can start getting bulk discounts on your processing, make more contracts with different things. Instead of doing what I do a little bit of everything. I've only got 25 head of cattle. I've only got 30 pigs. I got 400 laying hens, and we do about 3,000 broilers. I'm just kind of dabbling in a lot of things, but I'm creating a full protein spectrum for my customers because I can. And it's what I love to do. And I love the ecology that comes about with mixing a ton of different animal groups on the same land.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to talk to you about before I let you go, but probably after we capture a little bonus content, if you got time. So
I got time.
I want to talk about some of the mentalities and misconceptions that you had to overcome as a direct marketer. And we've talked about some of that. But yeah, some of those things that you had to get past in order to succeed in this. What were some of those things that come to mind there?
The first thing that comes to mind is I thought I had to do paid advertising. And I didn't. I tried it at the beginning and it really didn't work. I mean, it wasn't worth the money. I think that there's a really smart way that people do it. Obviously, people are doing it, so there's a right way to do it. I didn't feel like taking a bunch of courses on how to figure out the algorithm and how things update all the time. And so I was plenty happy to stop doing paid advertising, use the free services like, just posting on Instagram and trying to get a decent amount of followers to be able to spread the message. I switched to weekly newsletter emails. I was doing like one big newsletter every month with kind of like order reminders because a lot of our sales come through our online channels, and the newsletter is a direct invitation to them to go directly to our online store. Wasn't seeing the sales volume that I wanted to, so I gave weekly newsletters a try that were way smaller, and that's been way more successful with pushing people to the online store. It seems like people just forget that you're there, and you just have to be on them.
If I was a jerk, or if you weren't wearing headphones, I'd tap on my microphone and make sure everybody was listening to the fact that email isn't dead. And yeah. I am always blown away. Maybe because I'm not the person who you should email market to, but I'm always blown away with people who are doing direct-to-consumer marketing of almost any kind who will tell you email is the number one driver of traffic and revenue over against Facebook, Instagram, all the other social medias.
400%.
That's
absolutely
crazy.
I mean, I'm totally with you. I get email marketing and I unsubscribe to like everything. I hate it. Like Tractor Supply wants to send me an email every day, and I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like I'm done with you. I'm done with your stupid emails. You're gonna love this. So right. I scheduled my my MailChimp newsletter to go out during our conversation today, and within 14 minutes, I want to make sure I don't put this gal's information up here. But this gal put in a $377 order while we were talking. That happens like every time. So while we're talking about emails work, it's literally working on my site right there.
Awesome.
It's really cool, man. That's why I love having an online platform that I still have friends that are taking orders over text.
Yeah.
For their beef and stuff. And I just am like, guys, you're living in the dark ages and you're probably eliminating 90% of your potential customer base.
Yeah.
By not just having somewhere they can go on their phone at 11 o'clock at night and order. Yeah. I've totally fallen in love with the online store thing. I love the in-person stuff too. Like our farm store is Fridays and Saturdays here on the farm, and I get to talk to all kinds of awesome people and meet them. But gosh, they take up a lot more time than my online customers do. So you only have so much time in a day. Right. If I talk to every one of my customers that wanted to buy from me, and I had to take their emails or take their orders over an email or a text or something like that, I would just not be able to get anything else done. There'd never be any time to farm. And so I love having an easy way for people to buy stuff and not have to go through some elaborate process just to get their orders written down and write their credit card numbers on a napkin or something like that. I still have friends that do that, and I can't. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
There's probably some liability there too, right?
Yeah, I'm like, you got to burn that napkin afterwards.
Anything we missed? Anything you think needs to be said? Or
I think a nice bow would be, let's say you're a farmer out there and you're listening to this and you want to multiply your best customers. Maybe you can think of your top 5 people, like this gal that put in an order on my site while we're talking. She's one of my best customers. Her name is Heather. If I wanted to multiply Heather 5 times, how do I do that? And I think I don't have all the golden answers for that, but I think that having a conversation with Heather might be the most valuable thing that you can do, and say like, hey, It could be a text. It could be see her at the farmer's market and talk about it. It could be send her an email. You can ask her like, hey, you're a really great customer. We really appreciate you. You've really helped us financially as a farm. We want to find more people like you. Do you know of groups? Are you a part of groups that we might be able to have access to, like a mom's group or a neighborhood group or something like that? Because it seems like a lot of my best customers kind of live in the same neighborhoods. There's like, I got this whole neighborhood thing going on where I don't even have to do a ton of deliveries all over the place because I've been able to lock into people. They're mostly people around our farmers market. And it really like the first neighborhood closest to the farm, which is 35 miles away. Those two neighborhoods alone basically are probably 70% of our business. And so if you can talk to the moms in that neighborhood, ask them, would you be willing to put up a post on your Facebook, an unboxing video or something? Or do you know ways for us to reach your friends that might be interested? And I think that conversation that you have alone will get you way more ideas than you could come up with on your own. So I would say pick your 5 best customers and have the conversation with them and say, I need to make more sales. I really appreciate you. Do you have any good ideas? And just see where that goes.
Yep. What about once a month, taking one of those 5 best customers and saying, hey, would you invite 5 other couples and bring them out to the farm for a farm to table dinner?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Love it. That kind of stuff goes a long way.
And it'd be a free deal. Like, hey, this is a customer appreciation thing. It doesn't take very long with $380 orders to pay for 5 couples to eat a meal on the farm,
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if I'm grilling that night.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Find people that have the means to be able to afford what we do and love the farm to table thing. They probably just don't know you exist yet. And they just need an introduction.
And it might be an education opportunity too. Like, here's that cut of meat you've been scared of that I have a freezer full of. I'm going to cook it in front of you.
You never knew what I could do with an arm roast, did you?
Then you have to invite them 6 hours earlier to see you put it in.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, here's a video of me doing the sous vide for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Alex, very good stuff. Really appreciate it. And I would encourage people that are into the direct marketing thing to check out the Barn to Door deal, just so you can hang out with Alex for an hour for 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, that would be fun. Our class is a hoot. It's usually 20 folks each month, and we have a great time. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
If you guys want to reach out to me, I don't have any personal social media stuff. We didn't even really get into this, but I just have my business accounts. So Chucktown Acres is the name of my farm. And so I'm in control of all those accounts. So if people want to reach out to me with more questions and stuff, just find me Instagram, Facebook, Chucktown Acres. There's only one of me. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll have links to that in the show notes page today, workingcows.net/383. So Alex,
sweet. Thanks
for your time today.
Awesome. Thanks, Clay.
Very good stuff there with Alex. Obviously a wealth of experience and knowledge that he has gained from doing these things. He's an actual practitioner, so I really appreciate the opportunity to learn from him. Lord willing, coming up this week, I'm going to release my talk from the Regenerative Legacy Summit. I gave a talk on biblical stewardship. When we talk about biblical stewardship, what do we mean by that? And so I want to share that with you and let you have an opportunity to hear it and react to it. And be curious to hear your feedback on that. So Lord willing, that'll be out Friday as episode 384. And then very excited to share with you on episode 385, a recent conversation that I had with Jeremy Sweeten and Kent Solberg. Hope you all are taking advantage of what I am calling the smartest week in agriculture, with all kinds of great schools going on this week, and would love to hear your feedback from any of those if you attended. So until then, we'll see you next time with another episode of the Working Cows Podcast.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.